Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. And this week I'm joined by my friend James Heartquist from Property Leads. James is a fantastic guy. I've known him for a little while, and Property Leads is a great lead generation platform. And we really dive into not only kind of the specifics of what you should look for in a good lead generation platform, but we also dive into some of the red flags that you should be looking at and the kind of importance of actually working leads properly, both from a speed to lead point of view and simply having a very good follow up. What's the point of investing in leads if you're not following them up properly? All this and more in my conversation with James Heartquist from Property Leads. Let's dive in. And I'm live with my friend James Heartquist from Property Leads. James, welcome to the podcast. For those who don't know you, can you give a little sense of who you are and what Property Leads does?
Yeah, appreciate the invite. It's great to be here with you. So I'm James. I run Property Leads. Property Leads is a pay per lead company in the real estate space. We are a marketing company that generates the leads for you. You know, we try to make it as easy as possible so that you can focus on just closing deals, which is what moves the needle for the real estate investors.
So when you say because we get when people think pay per lead, um, or certainly when I talk about pay per lead to people, and people ask me my opinion, I always say, look, there is a sliding scale of what PPL means, and it can be as low as absolute shit to almost converted and anywhere in between. So, in terms of, if someone's looking to really drive forward and scale up their real estate investing business, PPL is a really great method of doing that. But what should they be paying attention to if they're thinking of engaging in this service? Because it is costly. It's not expensive, but it costs you money. And anytime you spend money on marketing, you should think about it.
Agreed. Yeah, that's great. I would say the first thing is making sure that as the investor, you're on the same page in terms of what you consider a lead and then what the provider considers a lead. It's funny, I've tested this at different events. I usually go to an event with like one question I'm going to ask everybody because I'm curious to see what the feedback is. And I remember I was at an event and I asked people like, "Hey, what do you consider a lead? Like, how do you define a lead?" And you get everything from, a seller that wants to sell it 70 cents on the dollar in the next 30 days to a seller that wants to sell at some point in the next 6 months. So making sure that you're on the same page there just so that you're in alignment on expectations. So Property Leads, for example, defines a lead as a seller who wants to sell in the next 6 months. Now, it could be on market, it could be off. But all we can really do as a lead provider is get in front of a seller who says like, "Hey, like I want an offer. I need to sell," and then, it's up to the investor to sort of move that seller into the right bucket for what works best for them. Whether it's a cash offer, whether it's getting it onto the MLS via like a realtor referral or some sort of creative financing like a novation. And then also having the ability to potentially buy houses, subject to or some of the more advanced strategies out there. So.
Now, let me ask. So, when I think about lead generation, it always twins itself with the activity that comes after, because
Yeah.
you can generate as many leads, and we've all seen real estate investors who focus only on how many leads are coming in and not what am I really doing, what is the structure I have to make sure I'm maximizing the leads that I have. You've worked with so many people now, and you've sort of handed off the leads to these companies. Can you give us a kind of best versus worst case of how people approach some of these leads, and where you see people succeeding and failing?
Yeah, great question. This will be really helpful for the audience too. There's definitely a few things that we see that move the needle substantially. Speed to leads probably the number one thing. Um, there are people out there that think as long as I call this lead within the first 10 minutes, like I'm doing a good job. And the reality is like there are companies that are going to call these leads within the first 30 to 60 seconds. And the game that we play is how do we get the seller on the phone, and then how do we keep them on the phone, right? And work them through the sales process. So the number one needle mover for every real estate company out there is speed to lead. If they just solve that, and let's say you are a company or a person that's slower on the speed to lead side of things, it's probably not going to be something you can just fix overnight, right? You're not going to go from 5 minutes to 30 seconds overnight, but it's definitely a stat or a KPI that you should be tracking in house, and you should be looking to improve that daily and then weekly. And you should be targeting that, 30 to 60-second kind of call time for when the lead comes in. So with property leads, for example, right, like we're generating the inbound lead and we're sending it to you in real time as a lead comes in. So like if we're sending you a text or an email with that lead and you're just letting it sit because you're in the middle of something, that seller is filling out another web form and somebody else is calling them. Some other things that you can do, the way that I look at this, really sales in general, but especially in the real estate niche, which is really competitive, is like, how can I do a little bit more than the next person to like win the deal? So some things that I've seen folks do that sort of separates them from the folks who aren't doing a ton of deals, their willingness to like door knock, for example, right? I've received some pushback on that just because it's a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to do that. It's really tough to door knock. You can't door knock if you're, doing virtual deals or remote deals. So I totally understand that. But it's funny, we had a sales guy that worked for us at Property Leads, and he was a wholesaler for 10 years. And we were on our morning huddle and we were talking about leads. And he was like, James, if I pay, $200 or $300 for a lead, like I shouldn't have to door knock. And I was like, you know what, dude? Like, I actually agree with you. I agree. But here's the deal. If it's you versus me, I am going to door knock. So like, how are you going to beat me without door knocking? And he was like, that's a good point. So the game that we play is how do we do a little bit more than the next? Some other fun things you can do. FaceTime. If you FaceTime sellers, I don't think spam has reached FaceTime yet. You got to be brave. It could be uncomfortable. You should definitely smile a lot and be funny and friendly if you FaceTime people. But they're going to wonder who's FaceTiming them. And if you're having trouble getting somebody on the phone, that's a great way to do it. So those are some of the things that I see. If you just did one thing from everything I just talked about, it would be improving your speed to lead. That's definitely a stat you should be tracking in your CRM. And if your CRM doesn't track that, you should request that from the CRM. Like, hey, I really need to track speed to lead. I work inbound leads are expensive. How do I get that into my portal?
Yeah, we're in the final stages of testing our speed delete and follow up agents, the voice AI agents that can do, well, not just voice, they do text, they do calls, they do inbound, outbound text and calls. So like a real person. And the speed to lead element, the only tricky bit I always have with the speed to lead element is that we have to be careful to observe time zones and calling times, because if a lead comes in at 2 in the morning because they've filled in the form, you can't call them.
Totally.
You can't call them.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
should we should preface by I should have mentioned make sure you're following your local your local laws.
TCPA and whatever logo, but your point is incredibly valid. Like when I look at the agents that we've been testing on speed to lead, we've not released them to everyone yet because honestly, I can't trust real estate investors not to be trying to cold call them people like so we've had to build an enormous compliance engine to manage that. But the great thing about these leads, this agent, is they're making decisions and they're learning when to call and when to text people. And so like a lead can come in and the agent can immediately send them a text saying, great, got your details in, are you free for call right now? And then can follow up in 10 minutes. And then what we've all, the agent can also, they're so good now that if the person says, listen, I can't speak right now, but can you call at 3? The agent will call at 3. And like, so there's lots of things now from your point of view, from your point, where there are tools now where there's no excuse not to have a speed to lead at this point with some of the capabilities that you have now. Aside from speed to lead, I think for me, the second thing where I see people fall down massively on leads they purchased is just is following them up. I do not understand why you would spend a lot of money on a lead, call them twice, and then kind of move on. How do you sort of approach with your customers? Do you have any sort of guidance, or do you have recommended practices on how to keep that follow up, because it is so important?
Yeah, we do. Couple interesting stats, or at least one interesting stat is so Property Leads offers a refund policy for various reasons. For the sake of this, we'll talk about the no response refund reason. So we will refund if there's a true no response. So like a seller fills out a form, you do everything that we ask from an outreach perspective in the first 7 days, and they don't respond. We follow up; they also don't respond to us. We look at sold house data in house to make sure we're doing a good job. And 20% of the leads that we refund for no response end up selling to somebody in the next 12 months. So, what that means and what that tells me is that somebody out there is buying that house, or 20% of those houses, they're selling to somebody. And what my hunch tells me just from looking at the data, because usually those are transferring like month 4 to 12, right? So the cash conversion cycle is a little bit longer. The person who's following up the most is probably getting the deal. I guess it's possible they're also filling out another web form as they're a little bit closer and that person's buying it, but pretend like you're buying the opportunity to buy somebody's house someday rather than in the next 30 days. And then, like, how do I stay in front of them and educate them on why they should consider me when they're ready? So having that long-term follow-up, first 7 days, I would hit them pretty hard with everything that you could think of: phone, text, email. um, I see investors get stuck here. They're like, well, what should I send? It's got to be perfect. Like, is this the right cadence? When the reality is there's some value to sending thoughtful messages, but a message is better than no message. And if it's just a, hey, Jordan, it's James, you still looking to sell 123 Main Street? Did you give up on selling? Even if that's just your message every single time via text and email, like, you're still going to be ahead of most people who just won't send anything. And then as you become more sophisticated, you learn a little bit more, you track to see what people are responding to, then you can send, better emails, better text messages, but get something built out first. So I would say somewhere in the 15 to 20 touch point range in the first like 5 days. I would look for like 3 to 5 per day. I mean, don't like hammer people to where they're going to get annoyed with you and just never respond. And then if they do get annoyed, like, have a funny, non-threatening response, like, why you texting me so much? Dang, bro, I'm just trying to buy a house this week. Like, my sales manager is going to make fun of me if I don't. Like, something like that, just something funny that like you can respond with that lightens the mood if somebody's upset. And then after the fact, after the kind of the first 7 days, if you don't get them, just some sort of a long-term drip where you touch them we'll call it every 20 to 30 days. It should be a text, an email, and some sort of a call every once in a while, just to check in and see how they're doing.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation, but I wanted to make sure you knew that Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors, connects to the best-in-class real estate investing CRMs. And because, as it's my show and I am co-founder and chairman of Smartphone, I got some great deals for you. Click the link and take advantage of 5,000 minutes free calling with Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors. Click and call. Close more leads. Back to the show. Oh, well, that's where agents really come into play for this as well, because those follow-up sequences, those follow-up touches, are absolute gold for agents to do.
Agreed.
They can be consistent, they can learn, they can remember that actually the last time you spoke to them there, it was a Tuesday morning. So I'm going to make sure that I try and call on Tuesday mornings.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
little things like that matter, though. Like, that's one of the things I hate in life are preset static cadences.
Agreed.
Preset static cadence that you just drop on people, like, plus day 5, do this, plus day 7, do this. Like, those are so that is so 2010. I mean, like, I really hate it. And one of the things I love about the age of the kind of agents is that you can actually have agents that go, well, listen, man, this guy only ever texts me back in the afternoon. Why the fuck would I call him in the morning?
Right. Yeah.
right?
It's a great, yeah.
You know, those are really cool bits. So, look, from a property leads point of view, like, um, if you were someone, let's take us a step back. If you were someone that is thinking of engage, you know, they're for most of the times, if you're engaging in sort of a paid lead generation service like yourselves, you're not a complete newbie. You're scaling. You're looking to grow, right? No, very few, I would imagine, complete newbies have the budget to put towards any marketing. Really, you know, you're gonna drive for dollars. You're gonna door knock. You're gonna do whatever you can to just keep the cost low. But if you are engaging that, um, are there any I don't want you to shit talk any particular competitors. Um, but are there red? I always you can tell me all day long the green flags of you guys. Great. But tell me the red flags of the in general because you know because sometimes I think red flags are more impactful to know to avoid a mistake rather than just why why smartphone's so good or why property leads is so good. What are the red flags people should be looking about when they're thinking of engaging with paid leads?
Yeah. So I love this topic. And we've sort of learned this the hard way early on, because we didn't understand this at the beginning. You have to continuously innovate over time and like adjust and roll new things out that just help people win at a higher level. So I'll give you an example. We within the last 6 months rolled out live transfers. Okay, so roughly 35% of the leads that we generate now, we're getting them to call in so that we can live transfer them. We haven't always offered live transfers. We saw a hole where we were like, shoot, like we're getting these sellers to call in. We're hanging up and we're like, yeah, Jordan's going to call you soon. And then Jordan would call soon, just like we asked him to, and they wouldn't answer the phone for Jordan. So, like, we were creating friction in the sales process for absolutely no reason. So, we built out a system to get the sellers directly to the investor. So, that was, and like, it's just free. Like, that's free. It's a substantial cost for us, but like, we know that it helps people do more deals, which is what matters the most. So, we're looking to, create more stickiness and keep people on long term. We want you to buy leads from us forever because you're winning and making a lot of money. Another example would be what we call the home seller experience. So we received some really amazing feedback from an investor in the space who was like, "Listen, like I like your leads. I get a 4 or 5x, but my sales team doesn't prefer your leads because it takes more touch points versus my branded, in-house inbound leads to close the deal. So like my leads take 4 touch points or 3 touch points, yours take 12. So like it wears my team down." We were like, "Oh shoot. Well, we just never considered that. Like, what do you think we should do?" And he was like, "Well, if you guys could make the seller, if you do a great job of treating me great, but if you could treat the seller like a client, that would be cool because then the handoff would be better." And like again, we're just ignorant. We were like, "Wow, that's a great idea. How come we never thought of that?" It's so like, it's just so like one of those duh moments. So now we have a couple things that we do. So like one example is if a seller fills out a web form and hits submit, the thank you page is going to pop up. It's going to say like, "Hey, Jordan from Jordan Buys Houses is going to be calling you here soon. Like, make sure you answer." So that was kind of V1, right? So now the seller is seeing the person who's going to call and it'll pull their company name in. And the V2 of that's coming soon is we'll actually be able to kind of implant videos onto the thank you page specific to the investor. So like we are adjusting to make sure that like we're still putting the investor in a great position to win the deal. And the folks that get stuck in the, well, it worked before, so it'll work now. Um, they're, I would imagine they're going to be struggling to keep up with some of the companies that are making some of these moves to just help people do more deals. And like, there's no cost to anything that I just mentioned. The live transfers are free. The video stuff is free. It's just something that we do because like we see the need for it and we care about you guys. We love you guys and we want you to do more deals. So.
Well, and I anytime like do you I suppose how do I phrase this? When you look at the success rate of actually closed deals to the leads you send over, I mean clearly you're going to track that stuff. You're going to want that. Anything that moves that needle a percent up is a valuable percent. Like anything that does that. Um how much do you think How much do you think, just out of curiosity, that 1% up can be dialed in by you guys or needs to be dialed in by the team that gets the leads?
I mean, I think the ownership's on both sides to always continuously do better. We are always open to feedback. Feedback's an interesting to ask for, right? Because sometimes like the feedback doesn't move the needle for either side, and it's a tricky thing to try to tell somebody, hey, I just asked for feedback, but this isn't quite what I was looking for. But we're always open to feedback on that side of things. And like that example of what we call home seller experience is a really good example of that. Like we missed there early on, and like we can fix that. But the most successful people that I see on our platform, but also just in general, they will take extreme ownership for the thing. And I'll give you an example. I got a text from a fellow the other day who is a very high level investor from like a deals per year revenue perspective. He said, hey, I just got a deal from you guys, so thank you for that lead. But additionally, I got this other deal under contract today that was a declined refund. So I submitted it for a refund for no response. You guys were able to get in touch with them. You declined the refund request, saying the seller is looking to sell. I called them today and I got the property under contract. That tells me we need to tighten up. So like for him to send me that text and say like, hey, I want to acknowledge that I submitted this refund request and then I dropped the ball because we got this property under contract today. We need to tighten up. That tells me that he's a guy that gets it and wants to be a champion and wants to win. So he took that personally and said, I need to fix this on my end. And like the game is, we're all just trying to get a little bit better each day. Like we're on the same team, we're growth partners. Like, how do we get better together? It's not like an us versus you. Like we're on the same team. Like if you're not making money, we're not making money, and vice versa. So like, how do we approach it as more of a team sport rather than just like oh, those guys are just my marketing company. I just buy leads from them. Like if leads get bad, I'll just stop and go somewhere else. Like let's look at it a little bit differently and figure out how we can develop the relationship long term, be able to offer each other good feedback back and forth, and then go and implement that stuff when we're sharing.
I mean, I love that approach. I think that it is such a virtuous circle when you do get the when you if they can make you better, you can make them better. It'll make you better. That'll make them better. It's wonderful in that sense. But I also take your point about that. Feedback can be a double-edged sword. God, don't I know that? Because sometimes as well, the feedback people think they want actually makes no sense from and that's a hard conversation to say. It's like, well, I get what you're saying. It's not going to help, and it's not a very good idea. And those are awkward conversations. Something, well, you asked, and like, oh yeah, and but unfortunately, this was a swing and a miss on that one. But that said, I would say 70% of the features in smartphone, for instance, come from user feedback, come from people saying, "Man, I wish it went did this," and you go, "Oh yeah, that is a good idea." Like to your point, we didn't think about that, and now you've got live transfers, or now you've got that different landing page where people are going to really understand this is the person who's going to um to reach out. I'm curious, if we think about the future of technology, obviously you guys are thinking deeply about how you guys can continue to evolve. Setting aside AI for a minute, which is what only thing anybody ever talks about. um there are elements of telecommunications that are changing right now that could work to your benefit. I'm thinking specifically things like RCS. Um, that, I mean, I could see, for you guys to be able to embed an immediate RCS message over to a lead with maybe a welcome video from the person, your investor, that's actually embedded is, these little bits of making people go, oh, okay, I like this. What kind of
Can you
technology do you see? Sorry.
can you share what RCS is for anybody listening that doesn't know?
Absolutely. So, and it's definitely in my wheelhouse in the telecoms point of view. RCS stands for Rich Communication Service. And basically, when people think about text messaging, if you're listening and you're thinking about your text messaging, right now there are two protocols for text messaging. There's SMS and MMS. SMS is essentially what a normal text message is, and it's limited to 160 characters per segment. So if you send more than 160 characters, you're going to be charged for more text, right? So you send a 250 character text, you're going to be charged for two text messages. MMS is multimedia. It's when you can send a video or a photo. But RCS is the new protocol that's essentially starting to become normalized. It's not normalized yet, and it's not fully integrated, although all the major carriers and Android and Apple are supporting it. And what it's letting you do is embed rich media and logos and all that into your text messaging so that they're actually embedded. So right now, if you want to send someone a video through a system like smartphone, you're going to send a link to a video. You can't really embed it.
Right.
But with RCS, you're going to be able to actually embed a video or a PDF, not as a link, but embed it into the message itself. And that, to me, takes on a whole world of change when you think about that immediate reference point of maybe someone filling in a form, and then they get a message from you guys saying, "Hey, here's Jordan, and he's going to be calling you." And there's a video from me saying, thank you so much for submitting, your information. I can't wait to talk to you and see how I can help my team can help you.
Yeah, very cool. I'm super looking forward to that. I mean, I know when I get marketing messages, even from like something I've opted into, I'm extremely hesitant to click the link because you're always worried about like,
Oh, sure.
is this guy gonna get access to my bank account? The $6 in my bank account's about to get dropped around. Like, so I'm a very skeptical person when it comes to that. So yeah, if we can get a straight video PDF logo into a text message, I've heard the phrase kind of trust recession. We're Jordan, we're in a lot of the same groups, and I think you've probably heard it too. People are just very not trusting of the things that they're seeing online and that they're getting. And they're going on Google and they're searching for the company that's calling them to make sure they're legit. And, if you can bridge that gap from a trust perspective, you're going to be in a really good position to win the deal. So it goes back to doing just a little bit more than the next person to get the deals across the finish line. If you're taking advantage of this, you're definitely going to be at an advantage.
I mean, I have to tell you, I genuinely, yeah, I hear the trust recession thing all the time. I think we're in a tired of fucking gurus recession. Like I'll be honest. There is a trust. Trust is difficult right now, but we've played this game ourselves. We've
Right.
brought this on ourselves with how much nonsense and promises and gurus on Instagram showing the, hey man, for $9, look at me with my Ferrari. Don't you want this for $27? I can show you the way. We've brought this on ourselves, whether in our community, in real estate, or others.
Yeah.
And I think, I think the trust, I think we're in a double recession right now in that we have a trust problem where nobody knows what's true or not. And that's being, doubled down on with AI and deep fakes and all that crap. But we also have are we a little sick of these people who are making all these videos and making it look like it's so easy to like, look at me boarding my private plane, which I rented for the hour in a hangar that doesn't move, but I look cool, and you want my lifestyle, and for $47 you can have it.
Yeah.
I think we're
Yeah.
tired of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's the like fake it till you make it mentality out there, and they're, putting on this, I don't know, this facade of something that's not real, like you just mentioned. And I think the game is like, how do we figure out which of those gurus are actually doing real business? Because there are some out there that are doing a great job. We're plugged into every coaching community on the planet from a real estate perspective. And like,
Some of them are
I would,
phenomenal. And the best communities aren't just about the education. It's the accountability, the nurturing, and the support. Where I see, where I've been on some, some of the, I won't name names in this, but I've been on in some of the communities where you can tell like they invest a lot in supporting people and guiding them and nurturing them, and that's very different than the sort of guru who doesn't have the tail of support.
yeah, I always, it's fun. I don't know if this is the right or the wrong way to do it, but I always gauge the group or the coach's value based on like how many people are actually making money in the group. So like, are people making money? Yes or no? And I've been in groups previously as a new investor who is very ignorant to everything that we're talking about now. You're telling me there's people online that would lie to you? I didn't know that was a thing. I was very ignorant. I've spent a lot of money on those groups that, nobody was making money, and I didn't know how to, see it. So I agree with you there. And I've been on the receiving end of a group like that. And now I know what to look for, thankfully. And, it's our people making money, yes or no. If they are, that's a great group. And if they're not, it's like, ugh, dang.
And is there genuinely, like for me, um I think there's a massive difference between the guru and the coaching community.
A
The
million percent.
Right, like that when I think of when I go into a community like Tiff and Josh at Results Driven, or Bill and Adam at Seven Figure, or Jen and Joe, or any of these guys, or Lee Arnold, I was just popped over to their community. These are communities where they've got a tail of support and structure that is designed to push you forward. Now, you still got to do the work, and if you're not going to do the work, well, I don't know what to tell you. But
Yeah.
there's a big difference between those guys and the guys who are just trying to make the splash, to make the buck, and there's no actual support. And you gotta that's the heavy recession I think we're in. We're weeding out. People are getting really skeptical, and if they don't see that support and structure, that's when they're going, well, what am I looking at here?
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head for sure. I agree with all that.
So listen, James, just to close out I want to do two things to close out the episode. First of all, I want to say that you are going to be joining us in September of this year, September 19th to 21st, in Dallas, Texas, for the REI Tech Unlocked event. James you guys are one of our key technology partners that is coming. That you're going to be speaking. The Property Leads team is going to be there. So this event is an implementation event. So if you're listening to this, companies like Property Leads and James are going to be at the event there for you to sit down and spend time with them, not for you to walk by their booth and take a leaflet, or sort of see a 5-minute demo. You're there to sit. Hey man, I'm looking for new leads. I'm going to sit down with Property Leads, and I'm going to spend an hour with them setting up an account or finding out how they can help me. And it's a real hands-on event, and I'm super excited, first of all, to see you there. What are you looking forward to for the event?
Yeah. We're really excited for this event for sure. Yes. Really looking forward to this. When I go to events, I love chatting with people who want to buy leads, new clients, but equally important, and what I like the most is meeting people who have been using us for a long time, and now you get to meet them in person and put a face to the person that you onboarded, 3 or 4 years ago. It's always cool when somebody comes up to me and they're like, James, you onboarded me 4 years ago, bro. Like, it's great to meet you. That's happened, and it's always really cool. And then also like folks who have tried property leads and maybe from their perspective didn't have luck, being able to sit down and do an account review and dissect and figure that out. Cause, sometimes there's just a missing element of the personal touch that, meeting in person and being able to review together helps. So, those are the three things I love. I want to make sure that when we speak and talk, that it's sort of actionable stuff that people can take back to their business. So we're definitely working on some fun stuff, potentially incorporating some of our I would say most successful clients are, people in the space that are doing a lot of deals so that you can hear what they're doing and just take it back and run with it. Still working on some of the details on that, but those are sort of the main things I'll be looking for, just interacting with people who don't know anything about it that want to learn more, people who've used us or are kind of on the fence, just sort of talking out, what's been working, what's not, how we can do better. They can pick our brains on how to implement things and roll it out and be better as well. Um, and then, yeah, just the networking to even outside of the event, the dinners and that stuff, that's where a lot of fun stuff happens. So
100%. And what I've said to people is not only are you going to have a room full of the best technology companies there who are there to speak with you, but you're also going to be surrounded by the investors who are looking to scale. And anytime you can spend a couple days going to the restaurants afterwards, staying in the hotel bar in the evening, and having that drink and talking through things, you can't miss out opportunities like that. And I'm super looking forward to spending the time with you there. How now? Just until the event, someone's listening to this because this episode is going to come out before the event. What's the best way for them to get into contact with you and Property Leads?
yeah, if you're interested in I think checking out leads, or checking out property leads as a potential, solution to getting you some more leads, you could go to propertyleads.com and check that out. Um, we should probably do something, Jordan, where if they know you and they listen to your podcast, we get them some sort of, you know, maybe like a $250 credit when they fund their account or something. I'm gonna get you a link for that. We'll drop a link in that gets you a credit as a thank you for listening to the podcast, and just we want to get you on and get you rocking and rolling. We'll drop that link in after this. I don't have it on me right now, but I'll make sure we get that to you.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Listen, what we'll do is I'll make sure all the information, the links to you guys, as well as a link to that, are in the show notes, and in all the information on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. So that we can get, if you're an investor and you're looking for leads, check out Property Leads. They're a great partner of ours. They're great friends of ours. And, they can make a big impact on your business. And James, I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
yeah, thank you for having me. I loved being here. You're the man.
Thanks for listening to another amazing episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. Head over to thatrealestatetechguy.com to check out all episodes and get special discounts on tons of awesome real estate technology platforms.